I'm Howie Scarborough. I'm the CEO of Fall Protection Distributors, and we've recently put out a blog about Fortify Building Solutions. What we're talking about is their different standing seam panel profiles and the most compatible fall protection equipment that's safe to use on their panel systems. So if you jump onto the website, go into this blog, if you have an upcoming project on one of these roofs, you can scroll through here and you can see information on each of the different standing seam panel profiles. So it's easy to determine which panel you're working on. We talk about the different gauges of steel or alternative metals that they use. As you can see, there's drawings for each one. So you can quickly determine which one you're working on. Once you've found the panel, if you'll click, there's several of these links throughout the article. Roof anchor compatibility chart. That's just going to link you to the quick reference guide down at the bottom of the article. So we have different products that we're going to talk about down the left column, and their different panels are across the top. So the first one I want to point out is the Slimline panel. This is a snap lock panel, but it's only available in the lighter gauges, 26 and 29. So we don't want to use anything that's seam mounted on that panel. You can use the Ridge Pro. We'll talk about that in a minute. The rest of these are very compatible with seam mounted equipment. So with seam mounted anchors, we're looking at, you want to have 22 or 24 gauge steel, and it can't be a curved panel, so non-curved. So starting with the SSRA1, this uses 12 non-penetrating set screws, and it locks onto the seam with low torque. So there's a lot of compression style seam anchors out there, which is basically two plates of metal with bolts that squeeze the two plates together. The problem with those is they many times are using well over 100 pounds of torque, and they're crushing that seam in between those two plates. So when we design this anchor, we use set screws, so we're not crushing the seam. We're just locking on at low torque, like it's 7.5 foot-pounds, 7.5 to 15 foot-pounds is all we're using. But we use it it's so low we're actually measuring it in inch-pounds. So the SSRA1, that's going to fit about 95% of today's standing seams. It's a one-piece aluminum body. It weighs about 5 pounds shipped, and it weighs about 4.5 pounds out of the box. What's unique about this product is it has a removable D-ring. So once you have a compatible seam and you can lock that onto the seam and properly torque it, you can use it as a single worker tie-off, or you can remove the D-ring and start adding adapter plates. So with the SSRA1, we do offer that with two different set screws. So the first one is our standard configuration. That's a cup tip, all stainless steel set screw. That is compatible with 22 gauge steel. And then we have an upgraded screw that is a nylon tip. It's still a stainless steel, non-penetrating screw, but has a nylon bushing in the end. It's a consumable screw. You're going to get 3 or 4 installations out of it, and then you're going to have to replace those because the tips wear out on purpose. But that's a softer bite on the seam. We use a little more torque, 180 to 200 inch-pounds of torque, but those screws can be used on 22 or 24 gauge steel. So once you have those, then we can get into the adapter plate. So if you want to put 10-foot walkboards on a roof, you would mount 2 SSRA1s about 8 feet apart. You would get a 2x10 walkboard, that's a full 2-inch thick certified walkboard is what these are designed for. You can do a 10-footer, and you can have one worker on that board. So you would mount your 2 anchors about 8 feet apart. You take a pair of SSRA2 roof jack adapters, mount those on top. They secure with 2 top bolts, and those are seam height adjustable as well as roof pitch adjustable. Very easy to use. They're padded on the bottom so they don't scratch up the seams. And then they have height adjustable legs, as I was saying, and that helps stabilize the seam when you're up on the board. If you want to run temporary horizontal lifelines on a standing seam roofs, of course you can't make any penetrations, you would mount 2 SSRA1s, and then you would take an SSRA3 anchor plate and mount that on top of those 2 anchors. That would be that assembly would anchor one end of a horizontal lifeline. So to do a full horizontal lifeline, we have a kit called the SSRA HLL Kit. That's 4 SSRA1 seam anchors, 2 SSRA3 anchor plates, and it also includes the 100-foot horizontal lifeline. It's a kern mantle rope. It's temporary. You take it down at the end of the day. That is a 4-man horizontal lifeline. So if you're anchoring to I-beams or you're anchoring to a true 5,000-pound anchor point, you can run 4 workers on that rope. But when you're on standing seam, keep in mind, we still limit that to 2 workers. We put that other safety factor in there just to keep it down to 2 workers at a time. If you have a larger crew, you can run the horizontal lifeline and then just add a couple of additional SSRA1 anchors, mount them on seams underneath the rope above the work area. So the workers can use the horizontal lifeline to travel. Once they get to the work area, they just clip off to a fixed anchor point and then descend the roof and do whatever they have to do. That keeps them off the line so other workers can move around. For permanent lifelines, we do offer a kit. It's the only one I know of in the industry. It's a Super Anchor 120-foot kit. It's an out-of-the-box permanent lifeline system designed for standing seam roofs. That uses non-penetrating seam clamps, aluminum base plates, 5-inch riser posts, and 120 feet of galvanized steel cables. That's a really great system for permanent lifelines for roofs that require routine maintenance and workers to be up there all the time. So for the slimline panel, any of these panels we've talked about, or the slimline, or even a shingle roof, we have the alternative Ridge Pro. So the Ridge Pro is basically like a ladder hook, except instead of using a big bulky ladder, it simply mounts on the end of a lightweight 16-foot extension pole. So the worker would climb a ladder, use the pole to run the Ridge Pro up the roof, flip it over the peak, and you've now locked a vertical lifeline over the peak of the roof. So as soon as you step off the ladder onto the roof, you're already 100% tied off until you get safely back to the ladder. You just take the pole, twist it 180 degrees, and you release the hook, bring it back down to the ground safely. So the Ridge Pro is a great alternative product. Keep in mind on the Ridge Pro, it works for most roof types, but it has to be 612 to 1212 pitch. That's the caveat on the Ridge Pro. So if you have any questions about any of these products I've discussed or any of these panels, or if you have a unique situation you need help with, please give us a call. Our phone number is at the top of the website. Email us at support@fallpd.com, or just click this little blue button in the bottom right corner of the website, and that's our live chat. We'll be happy to help you.